Gayle, welcome to the show. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you. We've had a few really amazing and interesting conversations. I absolutely
Mhm.
love what you're up to, as you know, and I can't wait to share with everybody your mastery and how you ended up in this place where you're gifting the world with your own magic. So let's get into a conversation about sex. Dr. Gayle,
Sex,
sex
he says,
expert.
hesitantly.
How did you end up doing this? I just want to talk about how you ended up in this position where that's an expertise that you have in, in today's world.
Oh, well, it's a long, long story, but I'll give you the Coles notes. My first marriage was when it ended. The very last time I had sex with my first husband was when I had my first orgasm. It,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
And it was because I was free,
Wow.
and I knew I was free, and so I could just, yeah, release.
Wow. Wow.
And I had been called the ice queen and all sorts of things, and I used to like sex, and then as our relationship diminished, I didn't want to have sex with this man anymore because I wasn't really liking the guy. And
Wow.
after our marriage ended, I wanted to know, what's wrong with me. I used to love sex, even though I didn't even know what an orgasm could actually feel like. And then after I had one, it was like, hello, I'd like more of those. How did that happen? And so I started studying,
Yeah.
and it was one book, one course at a time, and it just evolved
Wow. So let's go
over
back to
time.
this. Wow. Like I'm so excited about this because obviously you're starting out on this just vulnerable, honest, raw conversation. So, if I understand correctly, you wanted to understand what happened. So, you're really like your curiosity to get to know yourself and to understand what changed for you is kind of what started this ball rolling.
I was 36 when I had my first orgasm.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
so this is okay, that's really interesting. And
Hmm.
is that like, is that the beginning of you realizing, I need to help other women and people like me? Like, this really is telling to your true connection to self, to your own intimate ability. Like, is that what kind of opened the door for you to want to understand?
Eventually,
Yeah.
eventually, it started just really wanting to heal myself and figure out what was going on.
Mhm.
And at first I was really selfish with it because after my divorce, I kind of went a little sex crazy and just had a whole lot of wild fun and really, explored my own sexuality and what turns me on, what doesn't turn me on. And the more I was studying, the more those studies gave me permission, if
Mhm.
you will,
Yep.
to really embrace my own sexuality. So that led to eventually me going, I could really make a career out of this. How amazing would this be for me to help other people who have been struggling?
That's incredible. So okay, we have to stop for a second and talk about this because to
You
me,
didn't see that coming, did you?
I did not. And you know what? Like that's the framework for me of so many people's lives. Like, I also, who I am, I do transformational work as well. And I know a lot of people in that situation where they don't, especially women, they don't know who they are. And
Hmm.
they don't know who they are intimately and physically and sensually and sexually, right? And what you're talking about is a huge topic that's so very important to me. And what I love is also, see, I believe that all people should explore. I really do. That's my
Hmm.
personal, integration and awareness self, because what it did when I went through my own sexual exploration, as you did, was it really helped me heal. And it also helped me understand that I was important, and nourishing that aspect of myself was important. And I'm sure that's something that, you've learned a lot about, obviously, and you're, so raw and open about, listen, I was 36 when I started. Let's have a real conversation here about that's okay as long as you start at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that must be a hard thing to, maybe you find this in your work. It's a hard thing for people to actually confess to. Like, how many women are hiding that they don't have orgasms? You know what I mean? Like, how many
Right.
people are suffering in this silent shame, feeling like I have to hide this huge secret that I don't know? Like, this is just like, to me,
Yeah.
I know that exists. Like, tell me about that. Like, what do we do? Like, what did you do? And what do we,
Well, first of all, to be completely transparent, to add to this, is that when I was exploring my sexuality, it was a double whammy for me because I had never really felt loved and accepted throughout my life. In my family home, a lot of bullying at school. My marriage had just fallen apart. I wasn't feeling the love and acceptance there.
yeah.
And so I was using sex as a vehicle to feel loved and accepted. And what I have learned over time, partly through my own exploration, my own life experiences, but also through my education, is that if we don't feel connected to who we are,
Mm,
and if we don't feel safe with who we're having sex with, like
wow.
I'm talking primarily here about a committed relationship between two people.
Mhm.
It's easy to have hot sex, one night stand sex, because there's no history.
Right. That's true.
There's no hurts. You can freely be whoever you want to be in that moment.
That's true.
And you risk being rejected and judged by somebody that you just met, so it doesn't hold any weight. But
Mm.
when you are in a relationship
Mhm.
and there's been those hurts and those little judgments that you've had, the miscommunications, the missteps, and you start to not feel completely safe to be your true self and bring all of that forward, then your sexuality starts to suffer.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. And so true. Like that inner understanding of like sensuality or sexuality is about love, and it's about
Mm-hmm.
safety, and it's about nurturance, is so very, very important, right? So the healing journey that you're describing is my healing journey for sure. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Which I
Okay.
can really relate to. And, I know so many people who have, just have the same core misunderstanding about themselves, that they're
Mm-hmm.
not okay, and that somehow something's wrong with them. And for me, and you must address this in your work as well, I did have sexual abuse in my life, which was really,
Mm.
endangered me to be liberated and free. And when your innocence is taken away, whether it's through you're not enough and shame, or an actual physical invasion of yourself as a small young person, either way, there's a trauma that's really like, breathtaking
Mm-hmm.
in a very negative way. It like takes your breath away. And how do you reclaim your breath back and start breathing into yourself again? you know
Right.
how did you do that? Like, what happened that, what healing things did you do that really transform you, apart from, exploring yourself and being open to that discovery?
Oh, well, we're kind of going way forward here.
You don't have to.
If I could back it up a little,
Sure.
in my second marriage,
Okay.
things started off really amazing, high sexual energy.
Okay.
We were really connected. Uh, but what happened is my same relationship patterns started to emerge.
Okay.
And then our sex life started to dwindle.
Okay.
And at the same time,
Mhm.
I am now in practice seeing clients who are having sexual concerns, and my sex life is dwindling.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I was seeing in all of my clients who were coming to me was that they were having these sexual concerns, but if the concern was not, pardon me, if the concern didn't have a medical basis, it was based in a relational concern, an intimacy concern, either an intimacy concern between partners or within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I was living what they were going through. I had the sex education part, but I was seeing this convergence of how it's not just sex.
Right, right,
It
right, right.
is, it is intimacy.
Yeah.
And I started breaking things down and looking at it differently, and seeing that intimacy, a healthy, happy relationship is a trifecta of love, intimacy, and sex. And as you know, we know love it's pure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just pure. It is.
Mm-hmm.
And sex, as my mentor used to say, is perfectly natural, but it's not always naturally perfect. So, isn't that great? I love that.
So,
But
so
so true.
yeah,
So true. So
yeah,
if love is pure and sex is natural, what's the problem?
right.
It's in that intimacy part of the trifecta. This is where all of the baggage is. So I
Yeah.
started breaking down intimacy. Now, remember, I'm doing this for my clients at the same time I'm doing this for me.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful.
And, broke intimacy down into we're physically intimate. We have thought intimacy, an
Mm-hmm.
exchange of our ideas,
Mm-hmm.
our memories. Um, so many people feel that they can't share what's on their mind.
Yeah.
And so there can be a breakdown in intimacy there. Our emotional intimacy, of course,
Yes.
all of the emotions, and our spiritual intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
first with ourselves and our partner, but our spiritual intimacy with ourselves is, as far as, the way I define it, which might be different from the way you do, is our spiritual intimacy is our essence. It's our expression of our true self.
Okay.
So the healing is getting rid of the baggage so we can get back to our true selves.
Mm-hmm. Is there an actual, like in your viewpoint, I'm curious about what you think, is there actually a sensual or sexual self, essence and self?
I don't believe that you can separate spirit and sex, your sexuality. They are
Wow,
one and the same.
I love it. And can you explain a little bit about that? So the audience of people who don't really understand what that means.
Absolutely. And please jump in with your thoughts as well. I'm loving the conversation. Spirituality is about uh, a deeper awareness of who you are. It's a deeper awareness
Mm,
of others. It's a deeper awareness of the universe.
yes.
And our sexuality, when we have sex, it affords us the opportunity to have a deeper awareness of ourselves, body, mind, heart, and spirit,
Mm,
a deeper awareness of our partner,
yes.
a deeper awareness of connection beyond, peg A fits in slot B. You know, it's so
Here.
our spirituality, our essence, our energy is always in motion, and sex is about pleasure. It's about movement.
Mm,
Our spirituality opens us up to thoughts beyond what keeps us restricted and suppressed.
brilliant.
And with our sexuality, if we can open up our thoughts, open up our minds, and embrace the fact that the erotic mind is not politically correct, that our fantasies can,
That's brilliant, Dr. Gayle. I love that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so don't beat yourself up about whatever your fantasies are.
that's
The
an
erotic mind has no political correctness. It knows no social morals. It is what it is.
no. I want to ask you a question about this because
Yeah.
first of all, I adore this conversation, and I have to say, I know there's a lot of men out there who feel really ashamed for that part of themselves because it is really not politically correct, and I
Hmm.
know that that's a struggle often with women too. There's this. How do we understand that aspect of self and stay spiritual or stay feeling good about the experience? You know what I mean?
It's a
Talk
tough
about
one.
yes, okay.
It is a tough one. And what I found in my work is that it really, the more work you do on yourself to rid yourself of your own shame in other areas of your life,
Yes.
your own limiting beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
then, and a whole shit ton of forgiveness
I love it.
for yourself and for others,
Mm.
then you've opened that, you've expanded your awareness to an understanding that, I can have a fantasy about this. Doesn't mean I have to act on it.
Yeah. Oh, that is like a nugget of gold right there because so often, I mean, I personally have had a lot of men friends. I've just really, they're like simple. So I like them. It's this equals this equals this. Not simple, like they're not, they have complexities as well. But often it's just, it is what it is with a lot of the male friends I've had in my life. And this is one of their greatest challenges as men is to just feel understood and feel like it's okay for them to say what they want to say without that being an offense or something really wrong or an accusation of sorts. And,
You mean they're wanting to share their fantasies with
and
others?
they want to share their fantasies with others, and they go through like their own kind of like breakdown in their relationships with the ones that they love, the women in their life and even the men in their life. And that is a common thread that I've seen. Now, of course, women must go through that too. I'm just
Mhm.
expressing what my experience has been. So that's what ends up sometimes taking them away from the interaction and conversation with the person in their life. And I'm wondering what you would recommend maybe to those people going, I have these fantasies that I can't talk about. But I'm drawn to them expressing themselves. And somehow, I keep thinking about them, but because I feel locked down and I can't communicate with my loved one, it's getting bigger, but I have no
Mhm.
way to release it. What do they do? What do we do?
Well, it depends on what they want to do with those fantasies.
Okay,
Like, first of all, are they wanting to take those fantasies and make them a reality?
perfect. So first,
And if that is the case,
mhm,
then both partners need to be able to share vulnerably and openly in other areas, to be able to have the sexual conversation is one of the hardest ones we have, because there are so many taboos around it and we have so many judgments around it. So if we can have those harder conversations as couples,
yeah,
about other areas of our lives and feel safe,
mhm,
then, and if we've healed enough of our own BS
yeah,
around our own sexuality,
yeah,
then we can be more open to that conversation with our partner. Because sometimes it's tough. Depends what it is that they want to bring forward, that they want to act out.
okay,
So that starts with some inner work of their own, really exploring what is the benefit to me right now in this point of time to want to have this conversation. Is it better for me to explore this with a third party professional
right.
who is non-judgmental and isn't going to add more shame than I'm already feeling?
I love it. I love it.
And then from there, how much of the couple needs to work on things and
Mhm,
then come together in this conversation.
incredible.
So if they're wanting to act on it, that's one thing.
Mhm,
Now, if they are having fantasies that they just feel shameful about, that they are not necessarily wanting to act on,
Mhm.
then I say, lighten up. And in the kindest way possible.
That's so brilliant. Like, huh.
Really, and it's about knowing that the erotic mind is not PC,
Mm,
and that's okay, and that you can actually use these fantasies to your advantage sometimes.
that's amazing.
And I'll share personal on this one.
Love it. Thank you.
They, one of my fantasies is about seeing my husband having sex with another man. He is
Boom!
he is not homophobic in the least,
Okay.
but he doesn't want to go there.
No. No.
He likes sex with women, with me.
Yeah.
And that is not something that is on his agenda. And now we are at the point where we can have that conversation and I can tell him what my fantasy is. And he goes, okay, I'm not threatened by it, but you know that's not going to happen, right? So there are times where I'm having trouble getting into it. I'm having trouble getting aroused. So I can go into that fantasy
Right.
while we are playing in other
Right.
sexual ways, the light sexual play beforehand. I can go to that fantasy, or pick another fantasy out of my lineup of fantasy movies up here, plug one in, and I can use that to help me get aroused
I love
and
it.
get to that place where I am, because a lot of women have trouble
Yes.
switching.
Yeah. 100%.
And men, as they get older, have, generally speaking,
Yeah.
find that becomes more of a they're not turned on like they were when they were 18 or 20 or 30. And so it takes a little longer for them too. So, you can use the fantasy to your advantage. But then, once you are aroused, the caveat to this is then bring your focus back to your partner.
Nice.
Because if you're having a fantasy about, some star or starlet or, some other person, and then you're projecting that person onto your partner, you're not really present with your partner.
That's amazing. So really be self honest about the moment. Like create that arousement, allow yourself to fantasize. I love what you're saying, because what I'm understanding is like you're saying, I don't really have any shame because I have an open, honest, intimate relationship. So I don't hold, we've talked and he knows, and we've just had this open dialogue, which creates the safety for me as a person to have
Mm-hmm.
that experience with him, and for there not to be any bad feelings inside or any kind of shame occurring energy, because like we're present and it's okay. And then I bring my attention back to the situation as I have brought that forth through my fantasy, the arousement, and I stay in the presence of my loved one. That's like absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, really, and I have to say, I'm so honored that you're so honest about your experience, because I think you, by doing that, give permission to millions of people who go
Mm,
through so many really different emotions around sensuality and sexuality. So thank you for just being you and just saying, this is what it is. And it's
yeah.
okay, because you're the permission statement for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So many people. So I'm very grateful
Yeah.
you said that, honestly. And I love this conversation around the whole, walking through the door of changing the dynamics of your relationship and feeling intimacy from a conversation to an experience, without like really building your intimacy through doing that without conflict, just saying, well, this is what it is, we're in this place now as we've aged or as we're moving through our relationship, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, what else is there to say? Like this, that is the ingredients. Those are the ingredients to walk
Yeah.
forward in embracing your honest, open, and willing spiritual sensuality, owning yourself, owning your truth, and sharing that with your loved one, and finding forgiveness in whatever way is necessary, because I'm sure we need that sometimes. The breakdown of the experience, which you shared before, like, we're going through this breakdown inside, and we found our way through it through these values and these, limitless beliefs, like I can share anything with you and it's important that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And him holding that
Exactly.
space for you, like, that's just gorgeous and beautiful and abundant. I love it. Like, I love it. Like, we could in here and I'd be totally orgasmic. I'm totally orgasmic. This is amazing. Like, really, really important. Is there other things that you might recommend, just to kind of conclude maybe that part of our discussion, like, for people?
Well, the intimacy part, you really need to embrace everything
Mm,
intimate
mm,
to embrace your sexual intimacy.
yes.
And it's hard to enjoy sex if you're not feeling comfortable in your own body.
Mm,
So
big,
you need to have that intimate connection with your own body and
yeah.
who cares what size or shape you are, how many lumps or bumps? We are all human.
Yes.
And our sexuality isn't and shouldn't be determined by how we look. It's enjoying pleasure, it's enjoying movement. So, if you're not feeling really comfortable about your body, start doing some things just to get in touch with it. Put on some music and dance in your bedroom all by yourself.
Oh,
Stand in front of the mirror in the bathroom naked, and just our tendency is to go to the I don't like, oh my God, cover up, hide. Well, how about I love my eyes. I
right.
love my smile.
Yes.
Start with the small things and learn to embrace your body.
Yes.
Thoughts. We've been talking a lot about our thoughts, our limiting beliefs, and how we feel and our fantasies. And, what are your thoughts about your sexuality and how many judgments are there? Just really be aware
Mhm.
of the stories your ego mind is creating
Right.
about what it is you think you believe about sex. Because really, whatever it is that you think you believe, it's all outdated conditioning.
Exactly.
It
Yes.
you internalize those messages
Hmm.
by through the media, through your upbringing, through other people,
Yeah.
and whether they were verbal or implied, you were conditioned in a certain way to think certain things
Yes.
about who you are and about your sexuality. So challenge that.
Hmm. You
Does
know,
this thought really belong to me?
yes. Yeah. It's a great, like, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Or does it belong to somewhere else in my life? Like,
Yeah. So what can I let go of?
yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, that's key and instrumental in owning the next step of our sensuality or sexuality or intimacy, right? Like, I've done things like this where, because it brought us to mind listening to you, where, like, being abused. I mean, that's it. I really, like, I used to think it's gonna go away one day, and you know what? It really isn't. It's like a part of my life, and that's it. It doesn't. It doesn't go away. It just becomes kind of like a scar that's healed, that I just always know this happened. But
Hmm.
the intimacy and bringing my own openness to and innocence back to the exploration, that's was key for me. And years ago, and it's something I think is very important, and you can let me know if I'm on track here, is when you've been abused in some way or you have shame, your innocence was taken. Like, somebody taught you something about yourself that wasn't true. We've accepted it as true, becomes that limiting belief, it becomes all these things. But to claim back the aspect that was lost, there has to be a discovery. And so
Hmm.
I did this thing too, where I went in and I said, you know what, I'm gonna let myself, I was like in my 20s, I'm gonna let myself do to myself what I wish a man would do to me.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I did things like being in. I would lived in Ireland at the time, I had this little place where I was living, and the fire was burning, and I basically wrapped myself in lace, and I just did exactly to my own body, openly and vulnerably, what I wanted someone else to do to me. And I did this often. And it allowed
Mm-hmm.
me to really, but with this mind inside saying, checking in, like, how does this make me feel? How does this make me feel? So I could tell somebody else that this is what I liked, right?
Yes, yes. And you are talking about a key component in the work that I do too, is that, we all have had traumas.
Yeah.
Some little ones, sometimes they're really, really big,
Yeah.
big traumas.
Yeah.
And the reason that they still hurt is because they are cemented in with emotion.
Ah, love it. Bang.
So otherwise, it's just a story.
Yeah.
It's just a picture postcard,
Yes.
but it hurts, and it hurts present day because of our emotional attachment
Yes.
to it.
Makes sense to me.
And so it is exploring those emotions and doing the healing work around those emotions
Mhm.
and replacing the story with something new. So what you were doing
Okay.
was changing the story
Love it.
and
Oh,
imprinting
yeah.
positive emotions onto the experience of sex and sexuality.
I love it. I'm so happy you used that as an example to express the change, you know. I want to know about, you know, when you work with people, talk to me about your work. I want people to get to know you so they can follow you and love you up like I do. And I want them to understand, because to me you're a trailblazer, honestly. Like this whole world, and you're the way you bring it forth with the spirituality component and the essence component, and like, I think it's revolutionary personally, and I've told you that before. I just honor you for your willingness to take risks and to move forward and to be that pioneer and to put the voice to what we really need to hear to find.
Mm-hmm.
I really honor you for this, very much so. So I want the audience to know about your work. Like, how do you go about? Are there ways? Is it like one-on-one best, or do you do like teaching in a specific way? Can people work with you? How can people work with you? Like, what's the journey for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, yes, one-on-one work is,
Yeah.
that's in the transformation work. I found that one-on-one work is really the Cadillac.
Okay. I love it.
That's where, especially in what I do, because people are sharing such intimacies, they need to feel safe.
Yes.
So the one-on-one work is really about creating that safe container
Mhm.
where they can share, and we do deep dives into, when I do an intake with people,
Yeah.
it can take an hour and a half,
Wow. Amazing.
because I don't leave any stone unturned. Like, what are those hurts? Where did those come from? And what I do is, look at the threads, being able to link it all together, that, oh, so this is happening now. And you told me that this happened in your 20s, and you told me that this happened when you were 7. You
Mm,
see how those things
yeah.
are creating an echo experience here.
Amazing. And
And
yes.
then, there's different exercises that we do. It depends if it's a couple or if it's an individual.
Mhm.
Coupled exercises where they are interacting and learning to be able to just be still and hold one another in an extended hug until the juicy, yummy chemicals kick in, and they can fully relax in that embrace with each other,
Wow. See
in
these.
that stillness.
That's amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
letter writing,
Okay.
in releasing, forgiveness work.
Mm,
It's a big part of it. A release modality that I use is going back into the hurt,
yeah.
going back into those old emotions,
Yeah.
and going back into, and okay, creating what's my ideal? How do I want to feel? How
Mm-hmm.
do I want to experience this?
Yeah.
And going back into the old emotion
Amazing.
in a controlled, safe way, and then going back to the high point. This is what I want. And doing that work where we're going down into it and then creating a new experience. Each time we're imprinting a stronger positive experience and letting go of the old one. And because those old hurts are cemented in with emotion, we actually have to kind of go in and excavate and evoke those emotions so we can release them, because otherwise they just stay suppressed and they keep messing with us.
But you know, like I know, because I've done a work on like in that way. I don't think people necessarily should do that alone. That's why I think it's so important to have people like yourself, because these wounds are so vulnerable. How do you know? And so your work is critical in a way for people to be able to take the stages and not try to understand the stages, because you can help them understand the stages.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom.
You know, I'm writing about the modality in the book I'm writing right now. Yes, so exciting. Yeah, it's coming out spring 2020.
Yes.
The title is Make Love Great.
Yes. Oh.
Double entendre, take it any way you want. But that I discuss that modality in the book.
Yeah.
With a caution to start with the little tiny things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're still pissed that your brother, you know, broke your bike when you were 6 years old. Well,
right.
let's go in and heal that first.
Amazing.
let's do those little things first. Do not, never ever try this. Attempt to do it on your own if you are talking about trauma.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree. Like you need a qualified professional 100%, because there is no way I could have walked through the doors that I have about being sexually abused and the emotional intensity and that the things I went through without somebody watching me. And
Mm-hmm.
making sure I understood what was happening in the process. I was very young, like I was in my early 20s. And I know that opening the door to the trauma could have traumatized me even more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's very
Yeah.
important, like FYI, everybody, like be sure if you're going to, walk forward and realizing that you have sensuality or sexuality blocks or intimacy blocks, that you really, find Gayle and work with her and really make sure, or get her book, or just make sure that you work to, make sure you're safe. Because I love that you've said that a few times, like that. And that is so important for people to know that they need to be safe. To me, that's so gracious and so beautiful.
Fine. Oh, go ahead.
I'm good.
Finally, we are having the talk about consent en masse.
Yes.
Finally, that is happening big time. Yeah. And we want that to continue. Because really, like most things in life, but with our sexuality, because it's so fragile, so many hurts around it, so much taboo around it, it's safety first, last, and forever.
Yeah. I want to ask you to define what safety means. So if I was a little girl and you were trying to explain what I should understand inside about feeling safe, is there a description for that? Because we say people don't fully understand what they're supposed to feel, what safety actually feels like.
Okay. How would I describe it? Emotionally, to me, safety feels like comfort,
Love it.
peace. It feels that intuitive right. It feels good inside. Because we've got built-in radar.
We do.
And we intuitively know if something isn't quite right.
Yeah, we do.
And, you know, you can even tell when your partner comes home from work or walks into the room, if something's not right.
Yep.
Yes, we kind of go, okay, I can feel your energy is kind of off.
Yeah.
And so it's that knowingness of, and I think that in this conversation, I think that safety comes first by feeling intimately connected with yourself, so you can tune into that.
So important.
Yeah.
That's a key ingredient to, and I love that because you're bringing it full circle back into your relationship with yourself is so important. It's so important because that's the one that shows up to everybody else, right? And if
I don't know if the way I explained it would resonate with a little girl.
no, but
I don't educate kids, so I'm kind of going, how would I?
you're good. You're good because I understood it. When you said peace, I understood what it meant. But like, because when I was a child, like that's what I did not feel.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was in a house with people, I never felt peace. You know what I
It
mean?
feels like belonging,
Yes.
acceptance.
Yeah. And like I'm okay here. Like I'm not like looking over my shoulder, like a piece at the different stages of who we are as people. I know it changes shape and form. You know what I mean? So just the word in itself resonates with me at every level, even today. Like when I think about my sensuality, sexuality today as a 55-year-old woman who's gone through, I can't even tell you the stories. I can, we probably have a good chuckle about a lot of them. I'm so comfortable with who I am, whether I want to have sex or not, whether
Yeah.
I will or I won't. Like I'm in menopause now, so I'm at another level of self-acceptance and peace, which I didn't need to have, or even I could have had in 20 years ago. And I think that's an ever-changing experience of safety inside, is to be at peace with yourself and to have that feeling like I belong with this experience that I'm having inside
Mm-hmm.
myself, you know? I loved it. That's so good. That's juicy. Dr.
Yes.
That's juicy. I love it. Really, really.
Sex is juicy.
Yes, it
It's
is.
messy
Oh,
and complicated and fun. And if it's not fun and playful, you're missing something. You know, this whole thing about everybody wants hot, passionate sex.
mhm.
Well, okay, so what does that mean to you? You know,
Right,
what are you looking for, the Hollywood version?
right.
Because if you that's somebody else's representation of what hot and passion is. So
Exactly.
what going back to spirit, what is your spiritual essence? What is your energy? What turns you on? It's that allowing yourself to be playful and
Mm.
express who you truly are. And if
Yeah,
you can be
all of you.
playful, then you are tapping into your freedom.
Mm.
And when you can be fully expressed that way, with that freedom
Yeah,
and that peace,
yeah.
being at peace with yourself,
Mm.
then you start tapping into those experiences that we call transcendent and ecstasy.
And
Yeah.
euphoric. Oh my gosh. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about this before, and I want to know more about your work, and I want everybody to know how to reach you and find you. And just because I adore you, I think you're brilliant. You know, the physical experience of sex itself, right? When we talk about essence and spirit, I have my definition of kind of how that transcends itself in the physical form. I'm curious to know what yours is, like, you know, spiritual, physical, sensual experience, how that transcends itself in the orgasm or in the body. Like when people are having sex, what are they experiencing spiritually?
Wow. That's like,
It's
you
huge.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk to the big guy. Uh,
Right.
what are we experiencing? I think we're experiencing our divine connection. Now, that's on the spiritual side. Um, Physiologically, there's a whole mess of stuff.
Like, so
That
for me, when two souls connect, okay, and you have that level of intimacy, like you're talking about emotionally and mentally, and then there's physically, but when two souls are in that space of vulnerability, the exchange of love that happens in the vagina and the penis experience has this essence. That essence you were talking about is tangible. I mean, you can feel it, and it becomes such a, like an explosive feeling in the body, like your
Mm-hmm.
whole body is having an orgasm, and it feels like it even spreads outside of your body and into each other. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, because I think that's very key to what you were saying before about knowing your own essence and energy, because that leads you to these really in-depth oneness experiences with someone else, where, you know, the universe transcends itself into us, and our souls kind of like dance a little bit. Does that make sense to you as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have had those experiences, and they are beyond, they're beyond words.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
really, truly are. Now, what I would caution in this is that anybody listening to this who has not had those experiences,
Mhm.
add the word yet
Yet.
onto the end of that,
That's perfect.
because it is possible for everybody.
Yeah.
It truly, truly is. So that's the first thing that I want to say.
Yeah.
The lost what I was going to say. Well, lost what the other one was. I really wanted to drive that one home. The energy that we're feeling, I have had that same energetic experience when I'm meditating.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said it. Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you tap into the pureness of who you are. And so you lose all barriers.
So good.
You lose the limiting beliefs. You lose, oh gosh, how do I describe this? You know, it becomes, during sex, it's less about the goal. It's not about trying hard to get to that point where you have that experience.
Yes.
It's being so tuned in to the energy of the moment,
So beautiful. Well said.
that not just the way your partner looks or how the physical experience is playing out,
Yeah.
but the energy of that moment.
It's like the ultimate presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the ultimate, like you, all of you is present. All of them are present. Like I've had this experience, like where it's been very healing as well, where the first time or two I experienced that closeness to somebody, I just broke down and cried. Like I just totally lost it. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And I let myself be in that because I understood I was healing something very deep inside me, that I was allowing this presence in my life at that moment in time.
Yeah.
I also think it's important because I love what you said before. Like my experience too, like that didn't happen. That happened like way after I started the journey of self-healing. Like
Mm-hmm.
way after, you know, like I had a lot of moving parts to heal in my heart before I was able to
Sure.
be that vulnerable. So I love what you said, not yet. Like trust it, like as you process your journey, you can expand to that place of ultimate presence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the healing, we remove one layer at a time, because it would be too traumatic to go too deep too quickly. So we have to just, and when we're ready, that's when we can heal that next layer.
Yes.
And it's the same with the growth.
Yes.
It's adding one layer on at a time, and building up your um, your trust in who you are.
So perfect. I love it. That was really like, I have to say, I love this conversation. You're just
Me
absolutely
too.
like, to me, it's like, oh, like we could just hang out here and talk all day.
Okay.
You're definitely going to come back and hang out with me some more. And I would love for people to have a chance to chat with you as well, because it's really important, you know, the work you're doing, and I really mean that with all my heart because of what I went through. I value you so much, and it's so important for people to find liberation. But
Mm-hmm.
mostly my honor to you, like what I feel is that, from knowing you a little bit as well, is you just, I know you'll be that person who never stops growing and sharing that growth and helping people just expand more who they are, especially in this area of life, which is so deeply important. It's so deeply important that people find that comfort in their relationships, that how many relationships can be saved that don't even know they can be saved because of the problems that are being put under the carpet. And here you are, like this trailblazer going, listen, okay, people, there's a way through.
Yeah, we are pulling up this carpet, and we're exposing this big ass elephant.
Let's do it. It's here.
Here it is. Let's
Yeah.
call it what it is.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So I want, we're coming to the kind of the end of the show, and I want people to know how to, like, I just want to know what you're up to now, where you headed, and how people can connect with you. So I know you have a book coming. Tell me about anything else that you're up to that is really important and you want us to know about.
Okay. I am in the final stages of putting together what I think is pretty cool for people.
Okay.
It's there's I've got free things on my website,
Yeah.
and so many people do webinars, and I've done them too. And I thought, I want to give these people more. I really want them to know more. So I have just finished recording a 1-hour educational piece
Beautiful.
on, how to make love great. And it's the foundation of the work that I do. So it's no obligation stuff. And I couldn't pack it all into 1 hour. So there's like extra emails, and my assistant is going, are you sure you want to give all this? And I'm going, well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because people need this.
It's amazing. And they can't, no matter like what you're giving, you're opening a door, they still need the support. You know what I mean? So whatever door you're opening safely and lovingly, believe me, we want it and we need it. So that's amazing. Okay. So how can people do that?
My website is
Yep.
drgaylefriend.com, DRGAYLEFRIEND.com. The page where they will be able to sign up directly is makelovegreat.com.
Perfect. Awesome. So basically just get on it right now and you look out, because this new expression of what you want to give us is coming out soon. And we want to see and pay attention to the book launch and support you on that and get that book in our possession for real.
And yes, and on Facebook, if the audience is Facebookers, I've got a group on there, Make Love Great.
Yep, that's true. Yes, you do.
So come join my Make Love Great group. We're small but mighty right now and growing.
I love it.
So it's going to be, I'm so excited about this next year. I can hardly wait for this book to come out. And I've got a couple more chapters to finish up, and then it's the editing process and all the rest of it. But there'll be sneak peeks here and there, and I
love it. And if people want to actually work with you, they really have loved this conversation and recognize themselves in what we've talked about today, they can go to the website and information is there to connect with you.
Absolutely. Or they can email me directly, Gayle@drgaylefriend.com.
Okay, that's amazing.
And I'm sure you'll have the links in the show notes.
And put everything in there as well. Okay, just perfect. Is there anything else you want to close up with to just let people simmer over or think of? Any other permission you want to give us about our sexuality? And
sexuality. The first thing that came to my mind wasn't really sexually related, but it's relational, and it's part and parcel. When you first said that, the first thing that came up for me is I want to debunk something that a lot of people think, and that is one, that phrase, "you complete me,"
Oh, ouch.
bullshit.
Hello, I'm with you. Ditto.
I,
Yeah.
yeah,
You completely? No.
no,
No.
no,
No.
no, no. You complete yourself. You get in touch with your true self.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah, that's the first thing. And, a couple of other myths out there, like, typical advice that doesn't work.
Hmm.
Date nights. They're going to save your marriage.
I love it.
Nope. Because you're going to go out on that date and you're going to be carrying all that baggage with you into the conversations. Learn to communicate. Communication is the cornerstone. Well, not if you got all the baggage in the conversation.
Oh,
So, it's all getting back to your true self.
love it.
And yeah. So date nights are great. I'm all for them. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But you got to do the work.
Yeah, and be honest about that stuff you're carrying, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I love that because it's true. Like you can't camouflage the truth. The elephant's walking around. It's really there.
Yeah.
It's like, right. That makes total sense. Oh, you're amazing. Really
So
amazing.
are you.
Very grateful for this time with you. Honestly, Dr. Gayle, you're amazing. And I love you. And I'm going to share all of what you are about. Make sure you check out the links, everybody. And, thank you so much for your time and your wonderful, beautiful gift that you're giving the world in your work. And I adore you. And we'll definitely hang out another time. I hope you'll come back on the show for sure.
Oh, I would love to.
Thank you so, so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye,
All
guys.
right. Thanks, Lisa. Bye.